The silence in space meant nothing to the sensors aboard the exploration ship. Every beep and flash told a story that made the crew lean forward in their seats. They had been traveling for 3 months, mapping the outer edges of known space. When the readings started coming in, Nira pressed her palm against the cool metal console and studied the display. The numbers made no sense. Energy signatures this strong should not exist on an uncharted world. Her science officer ran the scans 3 times before speaking. There are cities down there, big ones and something else. The planet below them looked peaceful enough. Blue oceans covered most of the surface, with brown and green continents that reminded her of home. White clouds drifted across the sky like they did on a dozen other worlds. But the sensors told a different story. "Define something else," Nira said. Her officer touched the screen, highlighting dozens of red dots scattered across the planet's surface. Each dot pulsed with energy readings that made their own ship look like a candle next to a star. Military installations, at least 40 of them. And those are just the ones we can see from here. Nira felt her stomach drop. First contact protocols were clear. Any signs of advanced military technology required immediate reporting to the Galactic Federation. But something about these readings bothered her. The energy patterns were too organized, too purposeful. This was not a civilization that had stumbled into advanced weapons. This was a civilization that had built them on purpose. "How advanced are we talking about?" she asked. The science officer shook his head. "Our computers cannot classify most of their technology. Whatever they have down there, it's beyond our understanding." Before Nira could respond, the communication officer's voice cut through the bridge. "We're being scanned. Someone down there knows we're here." The main screen flickered and showed space around their ship. For a moment, everything looked normal. Then the stars began to move. Nira realized they were not stars at all. They were ships rising from hidden positions among the asteroids that circled the planet. 12 vessels, each one larger than anything in the Federation fleet, took positions around the exploration ship. The lead ship was massive. Its hull gleamed like polished metal, and weapon ports lined its sides like eyes. A voice came through, their communication system, speaking in perfect Federation standard. "Unknown vessel, you have entered human space. State your intentions." Human space. Nira had never heard the term before. The Federation's star charts showed this entire region as empty. No colonies, no outposts, nothing but empty planets waiting for exploration teams just like hers. "This is Captain Nira of the Federation exploration vessel Star Whisper. We are on a peaceful mapping mission. We had no knowledge that this system was inhabited." There was a pause. Then the voice came back, warmer but still careful. "Captain Nira, welcome to New Terra. I am Admiral Cross of the Colonial Defense Force. Please follow our escort ships to Docking Bay 7. We need to talk." The escort ships moved with precision that made Nira's crew exchange worried glances. These were not traders or explorers. These were military vessels operated by people who knew exactly what they were doing. As they approached the massive ship, Nira could see weapon systems that her tactical officer could not identify. The docking bay could have held 3 ships the size of Star Whisper with room to spare. Human personnel waited in neat lines wearing uniforms that looked both practical and intimidating. They moved with the kind of discipline that came from years of training. Admiral Cross met them at the airlock. He was tall and lean, with gray hair and eyes that seemed to see everything at once. His handshake was firm but not aggressive. "Captain Nira, thank you for accepting our invitation. I hope you understand why we had to escort you here." "Actually, I don't," Nira said. "Our star charts show this system as uninhabited. How long have humans been here?" Cross smiled, but it did not reach his eyes. 237 years. We've been watching the galaxy for quite some time. We know about the Federation, the hegemony, the trade unions, and most of the other powers. The question is, what took you so long to find us?" They walked through corridors that hummed with power. The walls were lined with displays showing tactical information from across the system. Ship positions, defensive grids, production schedules. This was not just a colony ship. This was a military command center. We had no idea you were here, Nira said. If humans have been in this region for over 2 centuries, why haven't you made contact? Cross stopped walking and turned to face her. Because we've been preparing. Preparing for what? For this conversation. For the day when the galaxy would find us. We always knew it would happen eventually. They entered a conference room with a large table surrounded by chairs. Maps of the galaxy covered the walls, marked with symbols and notes that made Nira realize these humans had been watching everyone. They knew about trade routes, military bases, political tensions. They knew about things the Federation considered classified. You've been spying on us, she said. We've been learning, Cross replied. When our ancestors fled Earth, they made a promise. Humanity would never again be caught unprepared for war. We've spent every day since then keeping that promise. War? The Federation is peaceful. We haven't fought a major conflict in over 50 years. Cross pulled up a holographic display showing ship movements across the galaxy. Federation vessels, hegemony battle groups, independent fleets. All of them tracked and analyzed. Peace is what happens when everyone is too afraid to fight. The question is, what happens when someone stops being afraid? Before Nira could answer, another officer entered the room and whispered something to Cross. The Admiral's expression grew serious. Captain Nira, I'm afraid I need to cut this meeting short. Your ship's automated distress beacon activated when we escorted you here. A Federation fleet is already on its way to investigate. That's just standard procedure. They'll call off the alert once they know we're safe. Cross shook his head. In 6 hours, 17 Federation warships will arrive in this system. They'll expect to find a small human colony that needs protection and guidance. Instead, they're going to find something that will change how the galaxy thinks about power. He gestured to the displays around them. Ship positions shifted as hidden vessels moved into new formations. Defensive platforms powered up across the system. Industrial facilities switched from civilian production to military readiness. Your people are about to learn that humanity didn't just survive in the outer rim. We thrived. And we've been getting ready for company. Nira watched the tactical displays update in real time and realized that first contact was not going to be the peaceful meeting between civilizations that she had imagined. It was going to be the moment when the galaxy discovered that the most dangerous species in known space had been hiding in plain sight all along. The emergency session of the Galactic Federation Council had never seen anything like this before. Representatives from 43 species filled the chamber, their voices creating a buzz of confusion and fear that echoed off the crystal walls. At the center of it all sat Ambassador Quinn, still shaking from what he had witnessed. 3 days had passed since the Federation fleet arrived at the human system. 3 days since everything they thought they knew about galactic power had been turned upside down. Quinn touched the datapad in front of him, but he already knew what it contained. Numbers that made no sense. Technology that should not exist. A military force that dwarfed anything in known space. The humans have been watching us, he said, his voice cutting through the noise in the chamber. For over 2 centuries, they have been monitoring our communications, tracking our ship movements and studying our military capabilities. They know everything about us, and we knew nothing about them. Council Speaker Tara leaned forward in her chair. How is that possible? Our deep space sensors should have detected any civilization of significant size. They didn't want to be detected, Quinn replied. Their colonies are hidden among asteroid fields, inside hollowed-out moons, and on planets that appear uninhabitable. From space. What we thought was empty space is actually home to 60 million humans spread across 43 worlds. The chamber fell silent. 60 million was a small population by galactic standards, but these were not ordinary colonists. Every report from the human system painted the same picture. These people had built their entire civilization around one goal: military preparedness. Their smallest colony has more defensive firepower than our largest military base. Quinn continued. Their patrol ships are larger and more advanced than our battleships, and they have weapons we cannot even classify. Representative Vorna from the Hegemony border world spoke up. What do they want? Are they planning to invade Federation space? Quinn shook his head. That's what makes this so disturbing. They don't want anything from us. They built all of this military power just in case we found them. They've been preparing for a war that might never happen. The datapad showed images from his visit to New Terra, industrial complexes that stretched for kilometers underground, shipyards hidden inside artificial asteroid belts, training facilities where human children learned military tactics alongside basic mathematics. Every aspect of their society served a dual purpose: civilian life and military readiness. They showed me their Guardian network, Quinn said. Orbital defense platforms positioned throughout their territory. Each platform can destroy a Federation dreadnought with a single shot. They have over 3,000 of them. The numbers meant nothing until you understood the scale. The entire Federation Navy had fewer than 500 capital ships. The humans had built a defense network that could destroy the combined fleets of every known species and still have ammunition left over. Council Speaker Terra looked at the tactical displays surrounding the chamber. Red dots marked human colonies with defensive grids spreading out from each world like spiderwebs. The entire outer rim had become a fortress that nobody had noticed. What about their leadership? Did you speak with anyone in authority? I met with Dr. Walsh, their chief strategist. She's been planning for this meeting for 30 years. She showed me files containing detailed battle plans for fighting every major species in the galaxy. Not just us. Everyone. Dr. Walsh had been polite, but direct. She explained that humanity expected to be outnumbered in any potential conflict, so they had built weapons and tactics designed to level the playing field. The humans did not believe in fair fights. They believed in overwhelming superiority and decisive victory. She gave me this, Quinn said, holding up a small data crystal. It contains their assessment of Federation military capabilities. Every ship class, every weapon system, every tactical doctrine. They know our strengths and weaknesses better than we do. The crystal contained more than just military analysis. It held economic data, political assessments, and social studies that painted a complete picture of Federation society. The humans had been preparing not just for war, but for every possible form of interaction with galactic civilization. They offered to share some of their defensive technology in exchange for formal recognition of their territorial claims, Quinn continued. They're not asking for anything we haven't already given to dozens of other species. They just want to be left alone. But leaving them alone was proving difficult. 3 more Federation exploration ships had encountered human patrols in systems that were supposed to be empty. Each time the humans had been polite but firm about escorting the ships away from their territory. Each time the Federation crews had returned with reports of military installations that defied explanation. There's something else, Quinn said. Their technology is not just advanced, it's different. They've developed solutions to problems we didn't know existed. Their ships use power sources we can't identify. Their weapons work on principles our scientists don't understand. Representative Kell from the Science Division had been studying the limited technical data the humans had shared. According to his preliminary reports, human technology had evolved along completely different lines from anything in known space. They had started with the same basic physics everyone else used, but they had taken it in directions that seemed impossible. How did they advance so quickly? Speaker Terra asked. They never stopped fighting, Quinn replied. Even after they left Earth, they kept developing military technology. Every generation built on the work of the previous one. For over 200 years, their best minds have focused on one question: how do we win a war against an entire galaxy? The answer apparently was to build weapons so powerful that nobody would want to fight them in the first place. The humans had created a military deterrent so overwhelming that even thinking about attacking them seemed pointless. They invited us to send a permanent diplomatic mission to their capital world, Quinn said. They want normal relations with the Federation, trade agreements, cultural exchanges, technology sharing, but they also made it clear that any attempt to interfere with their internal affairs would be considered an act of war. The chamber erupted in discussion again. Some representatives argued for immediate military action, while others called for peaceful negotiations. A few suggested that the Federation should simply pretend the humans did not exist and hope they remained isolationist. Speaker Tara raised her hand for silence. When the chamber quieted, She spoke carefully. Ambassador, Quinn, in your professional opinion, what are the humans capable of if pushed to violence? Quinn thought about the tour Dr. Walsh had given him through their military facilities. The pride in her voice when she showed him weapons that could crack planets. The casual way she mentioned that their current arsenal represented only their conventional forces. The hint that they had developed other capabilities that she was not authorized to discuss. In my professional opinion, he said slowly, if the humans wanted to conquer the galaxy, we could not stop them. The only question is whether we want them as allies or enemies, because ignoring them is no longer an option. The demonstration began at dawn on New Terra, when the artificial suns that lit the underground cities dimmed to simulate natural daylight. General Reeves had agreed to show the Federation delegation exactly what humanity had built during their centuries of isolation, but he wanted them to understand the scope of what they were about to witness. The Federation representatives stood on an observation platform carved into the side of a mountain. Below them stretched a valley that contained more military hardware than most species possessed in their entire fleets. Rows of vehicles, weapon systems, and defensive installations extended beyond the horizon. Everything looked clean, maintained, and ready for immediate use. 200 years ago, our ancestors made a decision, Reeves said, his voice carrying across the platform despite the wind. They decided that humanity would never again face extinction because we were unprepared for war. What you see here is the result of that decision. Dr. Carter from the Federation Science Division stepped forward, her scanner already working to analyze the technology around them. The readings made no sense. Power sources that generated more energy than small stars. Materials that her instruments could not identify. Weapons that seemed to bend the basic rules of physics. General, these energy readings are impossible. How are you powering all of this? Reeves smiled and pointed to what looked like a simple metal tower rising from the center of the valley. That's a zero-point energy tap. We learned how to extract power directly from space itself about 50 years ago. Each tower generates enough energy to run a Federation starbase for a century. The Federation had been trying to develop zero-point energy for 300 years without success. Human scientists had not only solved the theoretical problems, but had turned the technology into practical power sources that could be mass-produced. Commander Stone approached the group, carrying a data tablet that displayed real-time information from across the human territories. Ship movements, production schedules, training exercises, all of it coordinated by a single command network that linked every human world. The General asked me to brief you on our defensive capabilities, Stone said. But first, you need to understand our basic philosophy. We don't fight fair. We don't believe in honor in combat. We believe in winning so decisively that our enemies never want to fight us again. He touched the tablet, and the air above the platform filled with holographic displays. Star maps showing human territory, with defensive installations marked in blue and patrol routes traced in green. The coverage was complete. No ship could enter human space without being detected, tracked, and intercepted. Our Guardian network consists of 3,200 orbital defense platforms, Stone continued. Each platform carries weapons designed to destroy capital ships with single shots. The platforms are connected by quantum communication links that cannot be jammed or intercepted. Attack one, and they all know about it instantly. The holographic display zoomed in on a single platform. It looked deceptively simple, a metal sphere covered in sensor arrays and weapon ports. But the power readings showed that each platform generated more firepower than an entire Federation battle fleet. Ambassador Quinn studied the displays with growing alarm. How many people does it take to operate this network? None, Stone replied. The platforms are fully automated. They can identify and engage targets without human intervention. Our actual fleet provides mobile support, but the fixed defenses can handle most threats independently. The mobile fleet was another shock. Hidden shipyards throughout human space had been producing vessels for 2 centuries, building up a force that existed in the shadows of known space. The ships used technology that made Federation vessels look primitive by comparison. We'd like to show you one of our patrol ships up close, Reeves said. Commander Davis will be taking us up to the orbital yards. The transport that carried them into space was larger and more comfortable than most Federation diplomatic vessels. It moved with smooth efficiency that spoke of advanced propulsion systems. But when they reached the orbital shipyards, the delegates forgot about the transport entirely. The shipyard was built inside a hollowed-out asteroid that had been converted into a massive industrial complex. Dozens of ships in various stages of construction filled the internal bays. Each vessel was larger than anything in the Federation fleet, with weapon systems that defied classification. Commander Davis met them at the docking bay, wearing the kind of confident expression that came from knowing you commanded superior technology. She led them through corridors lined with tactical displays showing real-time information from across the galaxy. "This is the Liberty," she said, gesturing to the ship that dominated the central construction bay. "She's what we call a battle cruiser, designed for independent operations in hostile territory." The Liberty was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Her hull curved like a blade, covered in weapon ports and sensor arrays. Her engine sections glowed with contained energy that made the Federation delegates step back nervously. "What's her armament?" asked Fleet Admiral Park from the Federation Navy. Davis smiled. 42 primary weapon systems, each one capable of destroying a Federation battleship. 260 point defense systems for handling smaller targets, and something we call the Annihilator Cannon for special occasions. She did not explain what made an occasion special enough to use a weapon called the Annihilator Cannon, and nobody asked. The implications were clear enough. "How many ships like this do you have?" Park asked. "Classified," Davis replied. "But I can tell you that the Liberty is not our most advanced design. She's what we use for routine patrol work." The tour continued through weapons labs where human scientists worked on projects that pushed the boundaries of known physics. Energy weapons that could burn through any known armor. Defensive systems that could stop projectiles moving at significant fractions of light speed. Missiles that could track targets across multiple star systems. Dr. Walsh joined them at the research facility, carrying files that contained theoretical work on weapons the humans had never built. Planet crackers that could shatter worlds. Star killers that could cause suns to go supernova. Weapons of such devastating power that they existed only as mathematical equations locked in classified databases. "We call it the Prometheus Project," she explained. "Theoretical weapons designed for scenarios we hope never occur. But if someone pushes us to total war, we want options available." The Federation delegates realized they were looking at weapons that could end civilizations. Not just individual worlds, but entire species scattered across multiple star systems. The humans had developed the theoretical framework for genocide on a galactic scale. "Have you tested any of these designs?" "Doctor," Carter asked. Walsh shook her head. "Computer simulations only. Some weapons are too dangerous to test, even in uninhabited systems. But our models suggest they would work as designed." The final stop on the tour was the most disturbing. A facility where human children learned advanced military tactics as part of their regular education. 8-year-olds solving strategic problems that would challenge Federation military academies. Teenagers designing weapons systems as school projects. "Every human child learns military science," explained Colonel Barnes, the facility's director. "Not because we want them to be soldiers, but because we want them to understand what it takes to defend our people. They need to know why we built all of this." The children worked with the same focused intensity their ancestors had brought to building the defensive network. They studied the strengths and weaknesses of every known species. They learned to think like strategists and planners. They prepared for a future where they might need to make decisions about war and peace. General Reeves watched the Federation delegates absorb what they had seen. The shock on their faces told him that the demonstration had achieved its purpose. These people would return to their governments with a clear understanding of human capabilities. "We don't want to fight you," he said quietly. "We don't want to fight anyone. But if someone forces us into a war, we intend to win it so completely that nobody will ever make that mistake again. This is what 200 years of preparation looks like. This is what happens when an entire species decides that survival is more important than everything else." The news traveled faster than light across the galaxy. carried by ships that jumped from system to system with reports that shattered everything the major powers thought they knew about military strength. Within weeks, every government, trade, union, and independent colony had heard the same impossible story. Humans existed. They had been hiding for centuries. And they possessed weapons that made everyone else look like children playing with sticks. Emperor Valdris sat in his private chamber aboard the fortress ship Domination, studying intelligence reports that his spies had gathered from Federation space. The Orion hegemony had built its reputation on military might, conquering 17 systems through superior tactics and advanced weapons. But the numbers coming from human territory made his entire fleet look like a merchant convoy. How did we miss them? He asked his intelligence chief, General Corvus. Corvus spread holographic displays across the table between them. Each image showed what appeared to be empty space or barren worlds. Only when the computer analysis revealed the hidden installations did the true picture emerge. Entire civilizations disguised as asteroid fields, military bases built inside, dead planets, a network of fortifications that had been invisible to every scanning method known to galactic science. They didn't want to be found, Corvus replied. Our deep space probes passed through their territory dozens of times without detecting anything unusual. They use some kind of stealth technology that makes their installations appear to be natural formations. The Emperor studied tactical assessments that his military advisors had prepared based on the limited information available. Every scenario ended the same way. If the hegemony went to war with the humans, the hegemony would lose. Badly. The only question was how long it would take. What about allies? Valdris asked. Could we unite the galaxy against them? They've already thought of that, Corvus said. Our analysts believe their entire strategy is based on fighting a united galaxy. They didn't build defenses to fight the Federation or the hegemony. They built defenses to fight everyone at once. Across the galaxy, similar conversations were taking place in government chambers, military headquarters, and corporate boardrooms. The peaceful Aquarian Republic called emergency sessions to discuss neutrality agreements. The merchant guilds recalculated trade routes to avoid human space. Independent colonies began requesting protection from powers they had previously rejected. But not everyone saw the humans as a threat. On the frontier world of Haven Colony, Administrator Ross received a message that would change everything. The humans were offering technology exchanges and mutual defense pacts to smaller civilizations that had been caught between the major powers for generations. They're not interested in conquest, Ross explained to the Colonial Council. They want buffer states, independent worlds that can serve as neutral ground between their territory and the major powers. The offer was tempting. Human defensive technology could protect Haven Colony from both Federation expansion and hegemony raids. In exchange, the humans wanted nothing more than formal recognition of their territorial claims and agreements to remain neutral in any future conflicts. Similar offers went out to 47 other independent colonies and minor species. The humans were quietly building a network of allies that would surround their territory with friendly or neutral powers. It was a diplomatic strategy as carefully planned as their military preparations. Dr. Hassan led the human diplomatic mission to the Federation capital, where she found a government paralyzed by indecision. Half the council wanted to negotiate with the humans as equals. The other half insisted that such a heavily militarized species represented an unacceptable threat to galactic peace. We understand your concerns, Hassan told the assembled representatives, but you need to understand our position as well. We're not the aggressors here. We didn't seek this contact. We were perfectly happy living in isolation until your exploration ships found us. Council Speaker Tara leaned forward in her chair. But why build such overwhelming military force if you don't intend to use it? Hassan touched a control on her data pad and the chamber filled with historical images. Burning cities, refugee ships fleeing through space. The final evacuation of Earth as humanity's homeworld died around them. Because we remember what happens when we're unprepared, she said quietly. Our ancestors watched their civilization burn because they believed in peace and cooperation. They trusted other species to respect their rights and sovereignty. They were wrong. The images showed the aftermath of the Great War that had driven humanity into exile. Orbital bombardments that left continents uninhabitable. Fleets destroyed while broadcasting surrender signals. Entire populations enslaved or executed while galactic powers debated intervention. We swore that would never happen again, Hassan continued. So we built weapons that would make attacking us impossible. We developed technology that would let us fight the entire galaxy if necessary. And we prepared our people for a war we hoped would never come. The Federation representatives studied the historical records with growing understanding. These humans were not conquerors. They were survivors who had learned the hardest possible lesson about trusting others with their safety. But the revelation that humanity had been monitoring galactic communications for decades created new problems. Every major power realized that their private diplomatic channels had been compromised. Military secrets, trade negotiations, territorial agreements. All of it had been intercepted and analyzed by people who were supposed to not exist. Emperor Valdris received confirmation that his most sensitive strategic plans were sitting in human intelligence files. The Federation learned that their classified research projects had been observed and catalogued. The trade unions discovered that their private consortium meetings had been recorded and studied. They know everything about us, Admiral Cross admitted, during a broadcast to all galactic powers. We've been watching you for over 2 centuries. We know your military capabilities, your economic weaknesses, your political divisions. We know things about your governments that your own people don't know. The admission sent shockwaves through every capital in known space. Privacy, secrecy, and information control were the foundations of galactic diplomacy. The humans had destroyed all of that by simply paying attention while everyone else assumed they were alone. But we're offering to share what we've learned, Cross continued. Not as blackmail or coercion, but as the foundation for honest relationships. No more secrets, no more hidden agendas, no more pretending that we don't all spy on each other. Some powers saw this as an opportunity for unprecedented cooperation. Others viewed it as the ultimate violation of sovereignty. A few began planning for scenarios where human knowledge networks would need to be destroyed regardless of the cost. The galaxy was splitting into factions before anyone had fired a shot. Those who wanted to accommodate the humans. Those who wanted to contain them. Those who wanted to eliminate them before they became even more dangerous. And those who simply wanted to hide until the major powers finished destroying each other. Colonel Barnes watched the intelligence reports flowing into human command centers and realized that First Contact had triggered exactly the kind of galactic crisis their ancestors had prepared for. The question was no longer whether humanity could survive contact with galactic civilization. The question was whether galactic civilization could survive contact with humanity. The summit meeting took place on neutral ground, aboard a massive space station that had been hastily constructed in the buffer zone between human territory and Federation space. Representatives from every major power in the galaxy sat around, a circular table that had been designed to ensure no one held a position of dominance. But everyone knew who really controlled the proceedings. President Kane arrived last, as was human custom for important negotiations. Her ship was smaller than the flagships that carried the other leaders, but the escort fleet that surrounded it left no doubt about human military capabilities. 12 destroyers that could have defeated the combined fleets of half the species at the table. "Thank you for coming," Kane said as she took her seat. "I know many of you would prefer to pretend this meeting isn't necessary, but recent events have made it clear that we need to establish new rules for how the galaxy operates. The last 3 months had seen a complete breakdown of the old diplomatic order. Trade routes had been disrupted as species repositioned their fleets. Border disputes had erupted between powers that suddenly viewed each other as potential allies or enemies in a coming war with humanity. Colonial rebellions had started on worlds that wanted to join the human sphere of influence. Emperor Valdris spoke first, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had conquered star systems through personal leadership. "The hegemony recognizes human territorial claims and proposes a military alliance against our common enemies in the Federation." Kane smiled, but shook her head. "We appreciate the offer, but humanity has no enemies in the Federation. We have No enemies anywhere, as long as other species respect our sovereignty. The statement was polite, but everyone understood the implications. Humanity would not take sides in existing conflicts, but any attack on human interests would be met with overwhelming retaliation. They were offering neutrality, not alliance. Council Speaker Tara leaned forward, her diplomatic training evident in every careful word. The Federation is prepared to recognize human territorial claims and establish formal diplomatic relations. But we need assurances that human military buildup will not continue to threaten galactic stability. Our military preparations are defensive, Kane replied. We built them to protect our people, not to threaten yours, but we will continue to develop new technologies and expand our capabilities as we see fit. That is what sovereign species do. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The humans were not going to limit their military development to make other species feel more comfortable. They had spent centuries building their defenses and had no intention of stopping now. Ambassador Price from the Trade Consortium raised an issue that worried many of the smaller powers. What about expansion? Will humans be establishing new colonies? In disputed territories? Kane touched a control on the table and holographic displays filled the air above the meeting. Star maps showed human territory clearly marked with bright blue boundaries. The area was vast, containing hundreds of star systems, but it was also clearly defined. These are our territorial limits, she said. We claim no systems beyond these boundaries. We have no interest in expansion or colonization beyond our current borders. What we have is enough. The declaration was as important as any military demonstration. Expansionist pressure was the source of most galactic conflicts. Species fought over resources, territory, and trade routes. The humans were publicly stating that they had no such ambitions. In exchange for recognition of these boundaries, Kane continued, we offer something that has never existed in galactic politics, a truly neutral zone. Human space will be off limits to military operations by any power, but it will also serve as neutral ground for diplomatic meetings, trade negotiations, and conflict resolution. The proposal was revolutionary. Previous attempts at creating neutral zones had failed because the controlling powers had always been drawn into existing conflicts. But the humans were strong enough to enforce neutrality and had no territorial ambitions that would create conflicts of interest. Representative Mills from the Independent Colonies Alliance spoke for the smaller powers that had been caught between the major players for generations. What about species that want closer ties with humanity? Are you accepting new members into your alliance? We don't have an alliance, Kane said. We have mutual defense agreements with 17 species that requested our protection. These agreements are purely defensive and require no changes to their internal governments or policies. The distinction was crucial. The humans were not building an empire or trying to spread their political system. They were offering protection to anyone who wanted it without demanding anything in return except neutrality in conflicts involving human interests. Fleet Admiral Nash from the Federation Navy raised the question everyone was thinking about. What happens if someone attacks human territory? What would your response be? Kane's expression grew cold. Complete annihilation of the attacking force, followed by retaliation against the worlds that sent it. We will not limit ourselves to proportional responses or conventional rules of warfare. Attack us and we will destroy you so thoroughly that no one else will make the same mistake. The threat was delivered calmly, like a weather report, but it sent chills through every representative at the table. These humans did not believe in limited warfare or negotiated settlements. They believed in decisive victory and permanent deterrence. However, Kane continued, her voice warming slightly, we prefer cooperation to conflict. Human technology is available for trade or licensing to any species that wants it. Our scientists are willing to share research data. Our industrial capacity can be contracted for peaceful projects. Dr. Webb from the Science Consortium had been studying preliminary reports of human technology sharing agreements. The results were staggering. Species that had obtained even basic human technology had seen dramatic improvements in their industrial and scientific capabilities. Your fusion reactors are 3 times more efficient than our best designs, he said. Your material science, is decades ahead of anything we've achieved. How much of your technology are you willing to share? All of it eventually, Kane replied. We're not interested in maintaining technological dominance through secrecy. We maintain it through continuous research and development. By the time you master the technology we're sharing today, we'll have developed something better. The offer represented a fundamental shift in galactic economics. Technology had always been the basis of power and wealth. Species hoarded their advances and used technological superiority to maintain their positions. The humans were offering to give it away in exchange for peace and recognition. Captain Ross stood to address the final issue that had brought them all together. What about enforcement? How do we prevent conflicts between species that might drag humanity into galactic wars? Kane gestured to the displays showing human patrol routes throughout their territory. We will monitor all military activities within 50 light-years of our borders. Any hostile actions in that zone will result in immediate intervention. We will not allow our neighbors to fight wars that might threaten our security. The 50 light-year enforcement zone encompassed the territory of dozens of minor species and several major trade routes. The humans were essentially creating a demilitarized buffer zone around their entire civilization. This is the new reality, Kane said, standing to address the entire assembly. Humanity exists. We have weapons. You cannot match in defenses you cannot breach. We have knowledge about your civilizations that span centuries. We can destroy any of you individually or all of you together if you force us to do it. She paused, letting the threat sink in before continuing. But we don't want to destroy anyone. We want to live in peace with neighbors who respect our sovereignty. We want to trade technology and knowledge with species that share our values. We want to build a galaxy where war is unnecessary because everyone knows the price of aggression. The meeting ended with formal recognition of human territorial claims by every major power. The exclusion zone was established by unanimous vote. Trade agreements were signed that would revolutionize galactic commerce. And for the first time in recorded history, a single species had imposed peace on the galaxy through the simple threat of overwhelming retaliation. President Kane watched the other representatives leave, knowing that her people had achieved something unprecedented. They had introduced themselves to galactic civilization not as supplicants seeking acceptance, but as equals demanding respect. The galaxy would never be the same. But then again, that had always been the point.